Okay, now with these problems, we're going to talk about what these are all about. And I often tell this story, and I'm just going to tell it again real quick here, about absolute values. So there's a guy, right? See these absolute values? Sometimes we call these absolute value bars. This little line here and that little line there. So I'm going to pretend this is the bar. Okay, these are bars here. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about two guys. So the first guy is a guy, and he gets fired, and he finds out his wife is cheating on him, and his dog has run away, and everything is terrible. And so he goes into the bar to drown his sorrows. Now this is not a good idea. It's reality. This is what people do, but it's not a good way to deal with stress, anxiety, and depression in your life is to go into the bar and get drunk. But that's what this guy does. Another guy comes along and he goes into the bar, but this guy's story is totally different. This guy's story is, hey, he just won the lottery, just got a raise, he's just asked this girl to marry him, she said yes, everything's going great for this guy. So this guy came in negative, right, and this guy came in positive into the bar for negative reasons and for positive reasons. But here's how the story goes. So the guy who's got all this extra money, he offers to buy that guy a drink, and wouldn't you know it, just a few little bit later, they are standing next to each other in the bar. They got their arms around each other. They're singing a bar song, a drinking song together, and they're happy as can be. So somebody who peeks inside of the bar, all they see is two positive guys. They see everything positive. And so when the bar closes that night, drinking doesn't solve problems, really. All it does is, make you forget about them for a while sometimes. And when the guys come out, when this guy comes out, when that guy comes out, this guy's going to be negative, and that guy's still going to be positive. He doesn't have those problems, but this guy still does. And he may have some problems now, depending on what he did in the bar, but just from drinking, we're going to say he gets out and he's fine, and he's positive back still in his life. This guy over here still is negative. He just seemed positive when he was inside the bars. And that's what we do with these. Like, this is a product, right? This part of the expression, 4 times x minus 9. That's a product of two factors. And this factor seems positive, but it isn't positive. Okay? So now it says solve for x. So we're gonna know that about this x. So let's take a look here. And this is going to be a really, really good thing. What do we have on the left here? So on the left is 4 times the absolute value of x minus 9 minus 8. So what is this whole expression? Well, it turns out what we have here, so the absolute values bars, they work like a parentheses, right? In other words, they are grouped together that way. So what we have right here, this is a difference, right? This is a difference. That's a difference. So now what we're going to do is before we can undo this, we're going to have to take care of that. So we're going to add 8 in here. That's the first thing we should do, and let's leave that alone, okay? So we add 8, and then if we do that to the other side as well, and we add 8, so we had 2 times the absolute value, and that was equal to, right? 2 times the absolute value of x minus 9 plus 7, right? So if I add 8 here, I'm going to add 8 there. And now what I have is 4. I have a product over here. 4 times the absolute value of x minus 9, right, is equal to, and then when I simplify this, right, I'm going to simplify this. That canceled. And this becomes 15 plus 2 times the absolute value of x minus 9. So now on this side I have a sum, right? This whole thing is a sum, and I can't work on this product, which is one of the terms of the sum, until I get rid of that. But actually I have this x minus 9 on both sides. So this is really kind of cool. I want to show you and I want you to think about. This term is a product. This term is a product. They have the same factors. So it's kind of messy. How are we going to do this? Well, think for a moment that since this whole product right here is an absolute value, maybe I just define it as A. And I say A equals the absolute value of x minus 9. So if I were to define this as A, this is the beauty of algebra, then I could call this 4A, 4 times A. And over here, I could just call this is the same thing, so I'm just going to call it A. 2 times A plus 15. So can I solve this some more? Sure, I'd subtract 2A. See how this starts to look a little bit easier to work with than all that x minus 9 stuff? Okay, and then we get over here after we simplify, those cancel, and I end up with 15 equals 4A minus 2A is 2A. So now what do? Well, I would divide both sides by 2. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I get A equals 15 over 2. I'm not done solving, though, because that A was a shortcut I took, right? So now what I need to do is I need to rewrite it. And I'm going to rewrite it using x minus 9. So the absolute value of x minus 9 equals 15 over 2. Does the bar ever close? The bar closes late at night when everybody else has gone home. And that's the same thing here. If you remember our order of operations, the last thing we can undo is any kind of grouping symbol. We're not going to close this thing until it's all isolated by itself. And it is now completely isolated by itself. But when we do that, we know that the guy, remember I said the guy peeking in here sees a positive? So the guy who peeks in here says, oh, what's going on in the bar? Oh, positive 15 over 2. That's what's in the bar. The reality is it might be positive 15 over 2, but it might not. So we're going to rewrite this, and we're going to write it as two possible scenarios. X minus 9 could be equal to 15 over 2. But x minus, and I say or, right, or x minus 9 could be equal to negative 15 over. That's a 5. Come on, baby. Come on, 15 over 2. All right. So now, not that hard to solve this one. I would just follow my steps. I would add 9 to both sides. So I go and add 9 here and add 9 there. Okay. And then I would simplify. This cancels. 15 over 2 plus 9. That's 18 over 2. That's 33 over 2. So that is 33 over 2. Because 9 is 18 over 2, right? So anyway, do that math yourself if you want to. But one solution is x equals 33 over 2. The other solution, the or solution, we would add 9. And in this case, negative 15 over 2 plus, we add 9 to both sides again, right? So, but negative 15 over 2 plus 18 over 2 would be 3 over 2. So our other answer is x equals 3 over 2. So I would put 33 over 2 or x is 3 over 2. And those are my answers. Oops. And oh, let's just double check it. Why don't we just double check it? Let's do a solve command. Solve. Okay, and what goes in the solve command? 4 times the absolute value of x minus 9. So 4 times the absolute value. So that if I push this button right here next to the 9, okay, the absolute value, right, that will give me the opportunity to select that one. That's the absolute value. And inside I can go x minus 9. And outside I can say minus 8 equals, and that is 2 absolute value. So 2 times the absolute value. Where is my absolute value? In here next to the 9. And there it is right there of x minus 9. And that was plus 7. Plus 7. And I'm solving for x. So comma x means for x. We're solving. And there it is. I've checked and I got the same answer. 3 over 2 or 33 over 2. Okay? Now, let's put those in, and then I'm going to explain a scenario where you cannot get a good answer here. Okay? It says here that some problems have no solution. You see that there? Some problems have no solution. Well, when would that be? I'll tell you exactly when that would be. Let me go in here and give you a scenario. Remember when the bar is open, right? Oops, let's get a color here and go for it. Okay, so the bar is open. Let's say we have x plus 2, right, or whatever it is equal to, and that's the only thing on this side. And let's say it's some negative value over here. How can that be? How can that be that inside of the absolute value bars, is viewed as negative. Remember we said if the guy comes and peeks in, all he sees is a big positive. So how could that be? So if we are doing this inside an absolute value bar, it is impossible to find any value here for x that could be -7, that could result in a -7 when it's inside the absolute value bar. So that would be no solution. So anytime you work through a problem and you get that, you will get no solution. So let's see what that looks like in the calculator, in case you're doing these on the calculator. Solve, and we would do the absolute value. Let's just do the absolute value and x plus 2 equals -7. Solve that for x, and we just get false. That's what it says, okay? And that would be for actually any absolute value. Here's absolute value of x. Doesn't matter what's going on with x or anything in there, -7. And solve that for x. Then again, that says it's false. So, and nothing that's inside of here can be equal to a negative. And then we would say there's no solution. Okay? So that's how that's done.